Hello, grade 11. This is chapter 7, section 2, and now we're talking about Sparta and Athens. Now, as we discussed earlier, Greece was divided into a lot of independent city states, and today we're discussing two of the main city states, Sparta and Athens. Now, as the Greek city states grew, the wealthy nobles they started seizing power from the kings. But this did not last very long because the owners of the small farms they did not want the nobles and the clash between the levels started. Now, if we ask ourselves what does the word tyrant mean, people would think that tyrant is usually a negative word or a powerful, unfair leader, just like a dictator. But literally, or English wise, a tyrant is someone who seizes complete power and rules with total authority. Now, when the word tyranny or tyrants started to appear, most of the tyrants who started commanding, they started ruling fairly. But because human nature is bound to change, when the rulers get the ultimate power with no observation and no obstacles whatsoever, they turn into unfair, greedy rulers. So, this is why the word tyranny is always accompanied with cruel and injustice. Now, after tyranny, the Greek city states started moving from one system of ruling to the other until they reached two main systems. One was oligarchy, and the second one was democracy. An oligarchy is a system or a ruling system in which few wealthy people they hold the power over a larger group of citizens. So the country is ruled by a group of wealthy people. While in democracy, all citizens they share in running the government and they have their sayings in the government and the rules. Now, the two city states that we're discussing today, Sparta and Athens, had two different systems of ruling and two different, completely different cultures. Now, to start with Sparta, Sparta was located on the Peloponnesus island, a peninsula in southern Greece. The Spartans, as you remember, the ancient Greeks, they were descendants from the Dorians who lived or who ruled during the Dark Age. Now, Sparta's economy was based on agriculture. Sparta did not set up overseas colonies because they were not interested in developing. Instead, they invaded the neighboring city states and they enslaved the local people. These local people that they enslaved were called the Helots. Now, Spartans did not care about development and agriculture or economy, as we said, but they cared about strength and army. This is why Sparta was described as a military society. They stressed on discipline and they believed that strength is the best way to lead a country or a city. Now, Sparta's government prepared all the boys and men for the life of war. The boys left their homes at the age of 7 and they joined the military camps. In the camps, they learned how to read and write, but they also learned how to use weapons. They were treated very harshly, and the military leaders believed that this harsh treatment would turn the young boys into strong adults who could survive any pain or any hard conditions. Now, when the boys grow up, they would enter the army at the age of 20. The men could marry during their 20s, but they were not allowed to stay or live in their homes. Instead, they would stay in the military camps and they would share barracks and eat meals with other soldiers. Now, the typical army meal was a dish called black broth. What does it mean? Black broth is a dish that is made up of pork that is boiled in animal blood, salt, and vinegar. The Spartan men could go back to their homes and live there and settle when they reached the age of 30. But they are still bound to the army and they are still on call. If their city needs them in the army to fight, they have to answer the call of duty. But finally, they can retire at the age of 60 and they're no longer needed. Because many Spartan men lived away from the home up until the age of 60, the Spartan women enjoyed more freedom than the other women of the other city states in Greece. They were trained as girls in different sports such as wrestling and throwing the javelin. They had to remain physically fit because they acted as mothers and they took the men's role in running the activities, the farms, the businesses. Also, the Spartan women raised their sons and expected that their men would either win or die in the battle. The Spartan soldier must never surrender. Now, how was Sparta governed? How was the government like? The system was an oligarchy, and as we said, that the oligarchy is a group of wealthy people who are ruling the country or the city. Now, the two kings were at the top of the hierarchy. They ruled together, but they had little power. Their only duties were to lead the army and carry out religious ceremonies. In addition to these two kings, Sparta had two other governing bodies, the assembly and the council of elders. So the two kings were at the top, but they had very limited power. And then in the next level came two governing bodies, the assembly and the council of elders. Now, the assembly included all the male citizens who were over the age of 30, and the assembly was responsible for making decisions about war and peace. On the other hand, the Council of Elders was the most powerful body of all the government sections. The council members, they served as judges. They were the only officials who could order executions or exiles. But each year, the council elected 5 people to be ephors. What do we mean by ephors? Ephors, these are the people who enforce the laws and collected the taxes. Now, this strict, carefully observed government brought stability to Sparta. But because Sparta did not want the people to revolt or develop, they believed that people were not supposed to learn. They did not allow their people, especially the helots who were the slaves, to learn how to read and write. They believed that education empowered people and this would lead to unrest and revolts. Also, Sparta did not welcome any foreign visitors and prevented its citizens from traveling outside the city-state except for military reasons. They did not encourage their people to study literature, art, or any types of subjects that would encourage thinking or imagination. Sparta also resisted other changes like the use of money and the encouragement of trading. Sparta continued to use heavy iron bars, which discouraged the trade between the Spartans and the rest of the Greek city-states, thus keeping it as it is, poor farming society only with no improvements whatsoever. But the Spartans were happy. They did not want any development or any trading economies. They were only, as we said, interested in a well trained army. This was the only important goal of power, military power, and victory. Even though Spartans achieved Greece's greatest military strength and power, and they are going to defend Greece later on against enemies, but economically, trading wise, they were not the best.